Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mike here at Gamefromscratch, and China seemed like an unstoppable force in the world of game development. They were buying up studios left, right, and center to the point where it almost felt like half of the industry was owned by Tencent. They did seem unstoppable, but we did find one force that can stop them dead in their tracks, and that is the Chinese government. The Chinese government just announced rules on the gaming industry in China that just brought things crashing to a halt. So here we are on Reuters. Yes, not Reuters. I'm saying it right this time. On Reuters News, and here is the article. So this is pretty amazing. So Chinese regulators announced today, Friday, a wide range of rules aimed at curbing spending and rewards that encourage video games, dealing a blow to the world's biggest gaming market, which returned to growth this year. They actually had stalled in growth in the past because Chinese government stopped granting them licenses to actually create games over kind of a review process. They have a lot of control over their entire markets over there, much more so than we do over in the West. So what exactly are these new rules? Well, the new rules, which effectively set spending limits on online games, sparked panic among investors, wiping off nearly $80 billion in market value from China's two biggest gaming companies as investors sought to gauge the potential impact on earnings and more restrictions in the offing. Online games will now be banned from giving players rewards if they log in every day. That is basically called a battle pass, and that is like the standard live service market kind of way of monetizing games. On top of that, pretty much every single online game is using that mechanism, and so are basically most mobile games. So that is going to go away. So no rewards for everyday play if they spend on the game for the first time or if they spend several times on the game consecutively. So no rewarding basically addictive spending behavior. So essentially, they just banned gacha games. And I honestly think I would love to see North America do this. I can't see it happening. EU, I could see more likely to make this happen. But yeah, China just banned gacha games essentially, and the industry took a kicking overnight. So shares of Tencent were down by 16% at one point. NetEase plunged as much as 25%. Prosus, which owns a good chunk of Tencent's, also dropped substantially because of this as well. And then a lot of tangential companies are also going to take a kicking. We're going to see that in just a second. On top of that, it's not necessarily the regulations themselves, it's the policy risk that's too high. Executive Director of Institutional Sales at broker UOB in Hong Kong said people had thought this kind of risk should have been over and had started to look at fundamentals again. So basically, people don't trust investment in the Chinese market when the Chinese government can do something like this to be so disruptive. And that is, it's more so the fact that this happened more than the impact on revenue that these changes are going to happen. But this is going to change the entire industry. And I think, honestly, for the best, because these predatory practices, these monetization practices, nobody likes them except for the publishers because they're fleecing gamers out of money hand over fist, especially those with the more addictive spending kind of personality. It was a very predatory monetization system, and China just straight out banned it. Now, Tencent's take on this is a little bit different. Their vice president said Tencent will not need to fundamentally change its reasonable business model or operations for games, adding that the company has been strictly implementing regulatory requirements. Zhang added that miners had been spending historically low levels of money and time on Tencent games since 2021 when miner protection became a focus for Beijing. It's a weird flex of, no, it won't affect us because we're not making as much money as we used to anyways. NetEase declined to comment in general. Beijing has become increasingly tough on video games over the year. In 2021, China set strict playtime limits for under 18, suspending approval of new games for about 8 months, citing gaming addiction concerns. I also found out today that PUBG is called Game for Peace in China. But so although the crackdown formally ended last year with the resumption of new game approvals, regulators have continued to impose restrictions to curb in-game spending. New rules revealed on Friday are the most explicit yet aimed at curbing in-game spending. Besides banning reward features, games are also required to set limits on how much players can top up their digital wallets for in-game spending. So that's going to really kill off the whales, which again is probably a good thing because a lot of the people that are in the whale category, it's more of an addiction than it is a desire to spend to that amount. It's kind of like protecting these people from themselves. Now, of course, there are just people there with a lot of money and willing to spend it. But yeah, it's not going to be so easy for those people going forward. So the removal of these incentives is likely to reduce daily active users and in-app revenue and could eventually force publishers to fundamentally overhaul their game design and monetization strategy. And I don't think, show of hands, I'm curious out there, Would you like to see a move away from this monetization strategy? Because I sure as hell would. So if this is the ultimate result of these changes, hey, that's good, honestly. So games are also banned from offering probability-based lucky draw features to minors and from enabling speculation and an auction of virtual game items. This is like any kind of gambling or loot box, gone. You can't aim that at minors either. So if there's any probability-based, like say this rare drop that you get 1 out of 1,000,000 times, can't do that anymore. Again, that is like another core and fundamental function. Like think about something like Diablo 4. It just can't exist now. Anything with like a super rare drop can't exist under that ban there as well. Pretty huge changes there as well. The new rules include a proposal that is widely expected to be welcomed by the industry, requiring regulators to process game approvals within 60 days. So you're going to have faster approval of games in China, which is nice. And then on the flip side is announced on the same day 40 new import games for domestic release. So they're allowing more games in the country without this crackdown. So basically, if you're like an old-fashioned game, like say Baldur's Gate 3, this is a win for you because your monetization isn't predatory. But if you're a gacha game, which is like 80% of the rest of them, not so great for you. And then, yeah, a little bit more details here. Now, they're not the only ones that got hit by this. So the harsh draft rule also cast a shadow on the gaming stocks globally. U.S. gaming stocks Roblox, which is partially owned by one of the companies we saw above, Electronic Arts and Unity Software all slipped a little bit, between like 1.5% and 3%. Now that amount, 1 to 3% in the stock market, could be incidental, but probably not. So yeah, the whole of gaming is going to get a bit of a kick out of this. Their entire business model, if you want to do business in China, no more gacha mechanics, no more loot boxes, all the stuff that we kind of hate, to be honest. China just banned it, and I'm down with that, to be honest. But it's going to hurt the industry again. We've had a lot of layoffs and problems in the industry overall, so this isn't a time for that. But you know what? The industry needs to get its house in order, and the Chinese government is basically forcing that, which is good. And it's Tencent that's going to pay the price. And speaking of Tencent paying the price, they paid the price. So their stock, this is, again, same-day trading, they're down 12.35%. And if you look at this graph, announcement, that vertical line there, that is the result of the announcement. So yeah, definitely hurt them in terms of overall earnings. Now, again, remember, there has been stuff going on. There was a problem where they were blocking new game creation a year or so ago. They are already really hurting for that. So they were just recovering from that, but boom, here's where we're at now, and no idea where this is going to go from here. In terms of what does Tencent own? Because you may think, well, I don't care. It's a Chinese company. It doesn't affect me. Okay, let's do a quick list of game companies you've probably heard of. Funcom, Riot Games, Shark Mob, Sumo Group, Turtle Rock Studios, Techland. Let's see who else. Fat Shark, Supercell, Epic Games. Now, I should point out, Epic Games, as an example, they don't own it. A lot of these, they do not own them outright. They own a 40% stake, or they owned a 40% stake of Epic Games, as an example. Marvelous, Netmarble, From Software, yeah, like Bloodborne, yeah, they own 16, 17% of that one. Ubisoft, you name it, they own a big chunk of it. Remedy, Paradox, they own a ton of the gaming industry. Like, it is an absolute huge stake. They're probably the biggest playholder in the world of game development. And then we've got other companies down here as well. Discord, Roblox, Platinum Games. Some of them they may have divested of since, but yeah, they own a huge, huge chunk of the gaming industry. And then there was NetEase as well. NetEase is a bit more smaller in their scope. A lot of these studios would be a little bit smaller on the whole. But again, worldwide, a number of development studios are owned by NetEase as well, and both of those just got heavily impacted by this. And there's no way that it ends there. Like, this announcement is going to impact the entire industry. And truth of the matter is, once again, the stuff that they're going after this, online games will now be banned from giving players daily rewards if they log in every day, if they spend on the game for the first time, or if they spend several times on the game consecutively. All great things to get rid of, in my humble opinion. And then the other things down here, games are banned from offering probability-based lucky draw features to minors and from enabling speculation and auction of virtual gaming items. Again, welcome by me. These were all very painfully predatory and mostly hated monetization mechanisms, but they were used for a reason. They made a lot of money from them. So it's going to definitely have a huge impact on the world of game development, especially in China, but worldwide for sure, 100%. But let me know what you think. Are you kind of on board with these bans, or would you rather have more free market approach to this entire thing and have the government stay out of it? Let me know. Comments down below. I will talk to you all later, and goodbye.